Part one being, what can you do to
Yes.
help someone who has been sexually abused? So now we're going into part two.
Part two is more of the not to do. And we've done this a little bit on some videos, but this one's going to go a little bit more in depth and the reasons why.
Sounds good.
And one is not to pry for details that just override the survivor's privacy. You're not the police officer. This is not your job. You're not Child Protective Services. That's not your job to pry and push and get it, because they're already probably have had to do that, and or they'll do it in the future. And believe me, if you've had to go to the police department, which both you and I have done,
Yeah.
and you felt like your privacy was just taken completely away, and it left me to the point I didn't feel attached to that police officer at all. I felt they went too far. I felt like they made me so uncomfortable. And if you're trying to stay in that zone of being the comfort giver, you will leave that zone immediately.
Give me the details. Yeah.
Yeah, if you push for details, and though you're wanting to know, you could say, can you tell me more? And they'll tell you as much as they are comfortable giving you. Again, right. If you wait, sometimes they'll come back a few hours later and tell you more.
Yeah.
But they're working it in their brain of how to do it, what to say, and they need that time to do it.
True. It made me think of, after going to the police department for myself, to report mine. I remember, I don't think it wasn't that day, but I remember shortly after just being in the car and with my mom driving. I'm like, you know what, Mom? I also said this to the police officer. She waited. She didn't go reaming me for all the details so she could go and report it. She knew the next step was I was going to go, and I accomplished it. But then she waited for the details when I was ready to give her details. And as I remembered little pieces of the police department, I was able to then tell her that. I had a great experience. So my experience was very different than yours. I shouldn't say great experience. It wasn't like I walked out with a popsicle or something.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's
but
you came out positive.
I had a positive experience at the police department. So I don't want everybody thinking, that it's a horrible experience, and you don't want to tell that person that's abused to be looking for a bad experience. Yes, I've heard horror stories from other people too, but I've also heard good.
It's just hard to do.
It is.
A complete stranger, somebody you have no trust with or anything. So it's just really tough. Yeah. But the bottom line is, do not insist that they tell you the whole story.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Another thing is, don't question their account. So they're telling you the story and you're thinking, how could that even be? Because remember, if this is soon after the incident, they could be leaving out big chunk details. Just if they're wanting to tell the story, let them tell the story.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to ask a question or so afterwards, really pray about asking those questions, because the details, like you said, you started talking to your mom on the way home from the police station. It triggers for more information to start flowing a little bit more easily. But if they hear a question in your voice that you don't believe, or why did you act that way? Wow. You're going to move from that comforter, that calm person, that person of trust, to losing that completely.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give an example. I went to the doctor recently, and the room smelled like perfume. And so I opened the door after the nurse had shut it. I'm like, I need the door open so I can breathe. And then the person that was taking the x-rays comes in, and he went to shut the door, and I said, no, I need the door open so I could breathe. And he goes, wow, I don't smell anything. Just from the comment and the facial gesture of that gentleman questioning my inability or my allergy, Yeah, that irritated me, to be questioned in that regards. So you take that and apply it to somebody who's been sexually abused, and you have facial expressions that show that you don't believe them, or you question the time, the place, the space, the incident, you're also going to get pushed back, and you're going to get attitude, and you may not even get a response.
Yeah. Because you lost trust in that person who was serving you at the
I
hospital.
lost trust in a lot of people at that location because of the way they questioned the statement I made. I have an illness. I cannot handle the smell in this room. It's because somebody had too much perfume on, and I was having trouble with a little bit of breathing. So I opened the door to get some air, and I had 2 different people question me because of that. So, and we're just talking breathing perfume. We're not even talking abuse here. So yeah, don't shut your person down by your gestures or your questioning. Just saying, or the way you question. Questioning is okay, but you got to be
Why did
careful
you leave
how
the,
you.
is there a reason why you left the door open, Renee? That would have been a question.
Yeah, and a respectful way of asking.
There would have been some different ways they could have handled that. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it relates to this as well. Watch how you handle your questions.
Remember that nobody deserves to be violated or mistreated.
I agree.
That's huge under any circumstance. The other is, do not disagree with the course of action the survivor chooses to follow.
That's a
So
hard
we
one.
talked a little bit about, well, what if they say they don't want to go to the hospital? Well, that's stupid. Don't say that. That's
Please
irresponsible. You're not thinking of others that might get hurt. All of those, why am I heaping all this guilt and such on somebody who's just had a traumatic experience? It's unfair.
But I've heard that so often.
I know.
I've heard it so often. And
Even
I've
though
probably
my advice or my suggestions may be sound, that doesn't mean that they're in a sound place right now.
That one that you just said, sometimes we will use things. Well, think of others. You could help stop him from hurting other people.
Right. Oh, that one a lot. Yeah.
I used to use that one. I remember when I was first coaching a certain girl, and it was, but if you don't go report this, he's going to keep rolling. He's going to keep abusing. He's going to keep. In my head, it was like, we got to stop this, and we need to do it now. You know, I had mentioned,
because you were trying to solve an issue.
Yes. It was that urgency in my being to want to help her go and advocate for other people. But
And
I
can understand why you said that, but now you understand different.
I do. I do.
And so that's why we're bringing it up, because it makes sense. You want to fix it. You want to take control, all this other. And the thing is that it's not for you to be in control.
Yeah.
You're there to be that support.
Yeah.
Again, your advice was sound, but the survivor at that point will probably know the best way for them to maintain their mental stability at that point of what they can do and what they can't do. And bringing it up again, just planting it as a seed is really the nice way to go about that. And then bringing it up a day or 2 later, whatever it works out in a conversation. The other is, don't assume how somebody else feels.
That's a hard one too, because a lot of times we jump in and assume.
If they're crying, you're thinking, well, they're thinking this. There's 101 reasons to be crying.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And even if you know that person very well, say it's your child or your
That's even better.
your spouse.
Don't jump.
Yeah. You need to let them define what it is they're feeling, why it is their tears. I mean, it's silly, but even this week I was crying about something, and Eddie's like, are those happy tears or sad tears? So
he asked.
It was good that he didn't assume.
I remember I was at church one time, oh God, like 20 years ago, and worship was just incredible. And it ended And I didn't even realize I had tears going down my face. I wasn't upset. I was just, that was incredible worship. And it was just my emotions coming through. And somebody walked up, "It's okay, honey, things will get better." And I'm thinking, what?
Right.
And it had nothing to do with it. So again, perfect. I love that Eddie asked, are those happy tears or sad tears? He wanted to make sure how he should come in.
Yeah.
One thing I have found is sometimes different temperaments will want to make you feel better right away. They'll
True.
want to make you laugh because that's
Yeah.
something that you had in common before. And so they want to make you laugh. And I have two guys that are in my brain right now. And anytime I've been sick or coming out of surgery or whatever it is, the first thing they try to do is make me laugh.
Yeah.
I am in this place of coming out of anesthesia and all of the other, and they want to make me laugh because it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
And that's a warning right there. Are you trying to make somebody feel better to make you feel better? If that's the case, step back because they don't need you to be thinking of you at this time.
True.
You could take care of you. And we talked about you dealing with your grieving on your own and not putting it on them to carry your grieving.
Right.
But don't push it the other way.
True. Don't force them to that joy. But there's also the temperament, because that's my other side of my coin as that high I is, I like to bring joy into every situation, no matter what it is, and bring fast healing. Said that previously as well. And it's not always I'm trying to make me feel better, but sometimes I just want to make them feel better. I just want to make it lighthearted for them. I just want to lighten the load. And sometimes that humor is what I think is what could work at the time, but it isn't.
Nope. When my mother had passed, this person went ahead and made a joke to try to make me laugh when I just found out.
Mm.
And then they of course felt uncomfortable. And they said, sorry for your loss, that type of thing. And it was like, thank you. But that wasn't the end of the conversation. They couldn't let it be there. They couldn't let me be in a grieving state or just being quiet. I mean, I wasn't crying. I wasn't nothing, but they couldn't leave me there. They had to leave me laughing. And I knew that that's what it was going to require for them to walk away. Tough, huh?
That is a tough one. I'm receiving, I'm hearing, because I'm
and
guilty.
Victims will follow suit. If they know it's going to get rid of you, they'll do what you need. If you want them to stop crying so it makes them feel better so you go away, I'll stop crying so you go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be careful that you're not doing it for you to feel comfortable, because this is not going to be comfortable.
And this is not about you either.
And it's not about you, but there's nothing that's going to be comfortable. This is a grieving process. This is not a short-term thing. We already mentioned that.
Yeah.
And just you coming in and wanting to comfort them is huge. But when it gets to the point you can't go further, you need to excuse yourself. You need to step back, because you can lose vision and start worried about what's going on in you at the time.
True. And a lot of times people aren't, I'm guilty. They're not focused on that. They're not even realizing their own emotional processing.
It's a toughie. It's a toughie. I don't care what the circumstance is. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And if they want to make light of something or laugh about a silly thing, and it could be as simple as they agreed to have a popsicle. And as they're eating the popsicle and you're eating a popsicle with them, the popsicle breaks and falls like a popsicle will. Popsicles just happen to do that. And they start laughing. It's okay to laugh. I'm not saying it's not okay to laugh.
But kind of let them lead.
Let them lead.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that can be hard. As a support person, that can be hard to let your hurting friend lead when you want to lead them, like I said, back to joy, back to healing, what healing looks like for some of us, you know? We want to fix that pain fast.
And including the time that the grieving process, and we've gone through that in other videos, but like the anger part, you may not want the anger. You may, I've heard continually, it was only less than 24 hours I had it on me. You need to forgive him. And my brain wasn't even functioning in the manner of thinking of the person who hurt me, of dealing with their soul and their mind and everything. But it was being pressed upon me. You need to forgive them. You need to forgive them now. Do you want me to pray with you right now? And I'll pray with you so you can forgive them. And
Wow.
not doing it made me look guilty. Like, you see where I'm going? It was really that created more trauma.
Yeah. As soon as you said it, I wanted to start. I'm like, oh,
you're getting angry. But no, people do that. People go through that process and they want to rush things, and it's not the time to rush.
No.
The emotions, the process of grieving through this trauma that they've had.
Forcing spirituality on a person when they're trying to heal is not healthy either. And that's what it sounds like to me. That was forcing of a spirituality. And yes, forgiveness is a practice we do as Christians. It is something you and I have both done with those who have abused us. Yes, we have different attitudes now than we did on day one of reporting it. You know what I mean? But to be forced and told that it has to be in this time frame and it has to be immediate, that's not a will, that's not a choice of ours. It's a forcefulness of spirituality to me versus a conversation with the Lord and the Lord bringing it to that point.
No.
Nope. But you experienced it in a pretty heavy manner. I think that's probably also why my anger is stirring a little bit, because I don't wish that on anybody, being made to go through rituals and things like that. It's not okay.
And some people don't want to go back to church right away. They feel like everybody knows, but they don't. In most cases, they don't. It's only the person they've told or a parent, whatever. Their whole church doesn't know. But remember, their view from the trauma is completely different.
It's true. Yeah.
And give them that break and let them make the decisions to step back into youth group or, whatever it is, stepping back into working at a job again.
True. Yeah. Like they can face other people.
Not just face them, but also face them with more confidence. I don't know how to explain it well, but when you've gone to a really good counselor or you've talked with a really good friend, somebody who's wise, and you swallow the fact that it wasn't your fault, all of these things, because when it gets out, if it gets out type situation, some people will be unkind with their words. And one of them is, oh my goodness, you are so lucky. It could have been worse. I saw your eyes on that one.
No comment.
I saw your eyes on that one. Well, that's not what the survivor's thinking. And yes, there's some truth to what you're saying. You're lucky nothing else happened. Oh my gosh, you could have been killed. Why were you there? Why did you this? You know what? You should have done that. Or you need to have this pepper spray, or all these things. This person has just been traumatized.
Yeah. It brings to mind a gentleman who I actually helped him write his story, and writing his story and putting it out on a publication. It was the first time he went public.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And it went public, and a family member got a hold of this and read it. And he went to an event. It was, I don't know, somebody's birthday or whatever. And immediately, and I didn't even think about this at the time when he was, bringing it out. And I'm so proud of him. And I will never back down with that one. I'm very proud of every person and him for speaking it, writing it, sharing it, and not keeping it to yourself. You got to tell somebody. He had a family member that found out about it, and the response was, why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have done something about it. He wasn't ready sooner. You know, none of us are ready sooner. So that is another what not to do. Don't ask a person why they didn't tell sooner. They're doing it when they've
hero.
What?
And then they would have been this great hero, right?
Yeah. If you would have told me, I could have. They weren't ready. We weren't ready. We didn't have the words yet, you know. Didn't have the opportunity yet. It didn't, you know, the green lights didn't all happen yet. Not that we're all looking for the green lights, but I praise God for when God does spur us at the time that he does. Yeah. And we have that courage to share, because that is a moment, I call it, of heaven's kind of open, and it, you know, it comes out. Even how little it comes out, it came out. But it takes so much courage to do that. So yeah, don't ask that question, please, because it does make a person feel uncomfortable, and it even makes them feel guilty. And we don't need to have that guilt put on us.
Another one would be, I know how you feel. Now, look, I was sexually abused. You were sexually abused, Renee.
Yeah.
But I don't say to you, I know how you feel, Renee. It would be like 2 separate car accidents.
Yeah.
They would not be the same. And I'm not you and you're not me. So you can't know. If I say, yeah, I'm experiencing shame, I did too. But you didn't. If you said, I did too experience shame, you didn't say, I know how you feel. Mm-hmm. Because you're trying to take control at that moment.
That comment usually can spin into something else, almost of a one-upness.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where you're trying to guide people in understanding that. It's one thing to say, yes, I understand. But a lot of times it's received as oh, we're now in this competition of whose is worse, you know, and who's one-upping the others with, well, for me, you know, you just got to be careful of that.
Well, it'd be the same as when my mom passed. So I have all these sisters and brothers, right? I don't know how they felt. Each one of us is so different. We each experienced it differently.
It's true.
So dramatically differently. If you talk to each one of us, you're going to get a whole different story.
And there's 8 of you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's 8 different spins off of.
Absolutely. So it'd be wrong for me to say, I know how you feel. So just be careful of that comment. It could really cause bitterness.
True.
It could really shut down somebody. Yeah. It's the same way as if you said, you know what, it's really not a big deal. Oh, you got away on time. Yeah, they beat you and they did this and they did that and everything, but they didn't actually rape you.
Not appropriate.
Not appropriate. Right. It's not for you to judge, as well as
belittle. That was just a belittling.
You know, if I were you, I would have. So you just tell me your story. And then I go, well, you know what, Renee, if I were you in that incident, I would have. And you're thinking,
yeah,
why did I just bare my soul when it's all about you, Annette?
Yeah. What's sad is a lot of these responses you're listing are, when you first hear it, you think, well, yeah, that's a natural response. And it is. A lot of people, that's just kind of what spits out of their mouth.
Haven't you heard these before, Renee? Because I've heard them.
I've heard them. And like I said, some stuff I'm guilty of as well, you know, being on the other side of the fence, saying certain things. But didn't recognize the weight of what it brings when you say certain things. You know, so you sharing this series right now is helping us, it's helping others recognize the weight of our words, the weight of our actions, where we were naive before about, maybe didn't recognize that, dang, wow, that penetrated deeper than what we just always assumed was just surface. Everybody says this, and it don't make, you know, it doesn't make a difference, or it doesn't make an impact. It does. You can either help or hinder somebody with your words. And so this is valuable, to learn those pieces.
Well, they are common things that we do hear those sentences being used across the board. What it has taught me is, though I deal with sexual abuse, and that's always usually the subject I'm working on, it helped me to be more sensitive, as in, let's say, and I always use my granddaughter as an example, but she falls, she scrapes her knee, that type of thing, for me to say, you know what, that's no big deal, just dust it off. Well, to her, it's a big deal. She's feeling the pain right now. I'm not feeling the pain. And am I her?
Nope.
I'm not her.
Yeah.
I don't know how her body works, how sensitive her skin, all of those little things in there. And so I need to have empathy in that moment. Yes, I'd love for her to just dust it off and go on with life. I've had to work with her more on just her response, as in, if it's a small hurt compared to a big hurt, because if you scream big hurt every single time, it messes us up, because we don't know if it was a
yeah.
You're making a big scene for
the alarm goes off every time,
right,
but you don't know.
So that's the difference in there, but it's helped me to use it in other areas of my life, to watch those sentences, those words that could be so cutting. And lastly, is, if you know the person, or you have a feeling, you can go out there and get the person that has hurt the victim. Don't make threats. With the victim present, I'm going to go over there and do this, or whatever it is. Especially, I hear it from men who want to go out and hurt the person that is, you know, or I hear it from moms or dads, and nothing is going to hold them back now that they have had this shared. Now that they've had this shared, nothing's going to hold them back from going down the street and beating them up or doing this, whatever it is, because now you've put stress on the person who just told the story.
Yeah.
They're scared about what you're going to go do. And now it's all about you again.
Yeah.
You flipped
you
it.
and your
You
revenge.
flipped it. You flipped it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We've
And
said
who
it before,
wouldn't want
let
to?
authorities take care of it.
But think about it, Renee. If somebody had hurt one of your grandchildren, I'd have to hold you back and say, let's call the authorities, Renee. Let's call it, because Renee, you could be a bear. I can be a mama bear.
Oh, yes.
It's not going to be pretty.
Oh, yes.
But the focus should be on the healing of your grandchild, or whoever that person is.
I agree. And getting the authorities involved when the grandchild's not around.
Yes. And just don't make threats of harm.
You know, making that
because
phone
that
call
makes it scary.
and
Making the threats of harm just makes it scary. There was already stress on the situation with the victim, and now the victim has more stress, hoping that dad doesn't go over there and kill this person, or whatever it is. I'll lose my dad, he'll be in jail forever, or whatever it is. All these things, and I've seen it before, and it just causes such turmoil. And the darn victim is just trying to breathe through what's happened with them, and now they're having to deal with one of their parents or somebody else, a brother, who just finds out this happened in life, and he's going to go over there and tear into their father type situation. That's not what they were hoping would happen. They thought they would be talking to somebody unconfident.
It's an ugly situation, no matter which way you look at it, upside down, right side up, sideways. It's an ugly situation.
It is an ugly situation, but with God in there, and with the person who's the caretaker, taking it slow, listening, asking questions only if they feel prompted by the Holy Spirit. Not, believe me, you're going to feel like asking a lot of questions, but 100 of them should stay behind. And only the ones that you really feel prompted to ask or suggest. And that is the biggest part, is suggest. What would you think about going to the hospital right now, and just to make sure you're physically okay? Well, hopefully the conversation we've had lets people know nobody is perfect. We can't be the perfect caregiver, the perfect person that comes alongside of somebody, but hopefully it will give insight to both sides of the coin of how it feels, as well as for the person on how they can go ahead and help the other person walk through the journey towards their hope and healing they have.
The only other thing I throw in there is, as the person receiving it, sometimes it's a shock because you weren't expecting it. It wasn't in your planner that day, you know.
Nope.
It's a shock to get it. And sometimes you think, oh man, I'm just not going to be good enough to handle this one. God will give you the strength. You ask him to be present in it, and you just walk through it. He'll give you what you need. He'll give you the words when you need them. And it's definitely a time of communication with God, for sure, when you're there receiving this kind of information. So, and we've both been on that side of the fence as well, you know, having the stop in our tracks when somebody shared something pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And it's true. You've got to stop in your tracks when they stop you, and just be present. Sit on the side of those tracks with them.
Yes.
And just
there
listen.
You go.
Just listen.
You got it. Well, thanks again, Renee.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.